Hey, how's it going? So I feel like this what am I trying to say? I wasn't expecting a big audience for this stream just because I totally forgot. I was too tired to do a stream last month. Um but I was so tired I forgot to tell people there wasn't going to be a stream. I just like looked up and was like, "Oh, I should have had a stream by now." um anyway, I've been and the reason I preface that this stream with that statement is that I'm looking up the YouTube's little watch counter, and there are zero. It tells me there are zero people watching. This is not without precedent. I still go for a little while because I figure somebody might want to listen to this while doing the dishes tomorrow or something. So I will keep going. Anyway, hi. How's everybody doing? I am. I'm not going to bury the lead here. I'm exhausted. It has been a fascinating but very busy week, which has left me with very little gas in the tank. I could make it an hour talking about movies, but uh, anyway, it's not going to be like one of my usual streams where I'm like shooting free throws and working out during because I'm just low energy, which is a joke because I'm always just sitting here talking. Anyway, um, I have seen a lot of good movies lately. I was trying to catch up on 2025 because what usually happens in like late August, early September is most of is like um you start you start being able to watch all the movies that have been coming out in 2025. Like for the first 3 months of the year, I'm just catching up on 2024. And then like for the next 3 months of the year, nothing from 2025 is out yet. So I found that it's not until like 7, 8, 9 months into the year that you can really that you can really start to get caught up, and that's what I've been doing. Anyway, so I'm just pulling up my phone here, which has my diary. Last night I watched Sorry Baby, which I did look up the trailer before I watched it, but I decided I was gonna watch it just based on the poster alone, which is just someone holding up a kitty looking at the cat. I'm so tired. I'm actually like drinking coffee at 7 p.m. Anyway, Sorry Baby was very, very good. It felt it hit a very precise sweet spot for me as a viewer where awful things are happening to really nice people, but it's not a movie that depresses the hell out of me. It's also not a feel good movie, nor is it trying to be, but it's very honest and kind. Uh, and I felt like I really needed that. And it, I've already, it's taken the top spot in the running list that I am keeping for favorite films of 2025. It is the film to unseat at this point. But I do still have a lot of 2025 to watch. First of all, we're only two-thirds of the way through the year. And second of all, I probably haven't watched more than 20 films in 2025. Um, and I don't really feel like I'm ready to make a top 10 list until I've hit at least 40. So anyway, and then I watched October Sky, uh, which is one of those movies. It came out in '99, and it was one of those movies that like whenever one of my teachers didn't have a lesson plan or there was a substitute teacher, they would just put on October Sky. So I've seen it like a dozen times, just rarely in one sitting. And I always really liked it. I like it a lot. Um, as this is probably my first watch as an adult, and it hits different, but it hits deeper because it's the parts that really resonated with me this time is when the main character, um, Homer Hickam, I think his name is, when he he wants to be a rocket scientist, but he's forced to take on a job in a coal mine, which the whole town, all they do is coal mining, and he hates it. He knows he'll hate it, and he's finally forced to get a job there. And everybody tells him he's great at it, great at being a coal miner. And that hit different for me because it's like when people tell me I'm really, really good at things that I hate doing, when people tell me that I'm really, really good at doing stuff that has nothing to do with creating art, thing and that skill sometimes it feels like it's keeping me from making art. Uh anyway, it just I had a very strong response to it. I knew I liked the movie already, but it was a really good viewing. Then I watched Bandits, which is like the weirdest film that for my parents to love and show me as a child. Like it came out when I was 13 in 2001, and like I remember watching it all the time. It was like whenever the family was sitting in front of the TV flipping through the channels trying to figure out what to watch that night, if Bandits was on, that's what we would watch. And so that's another movie that I've seen like starting at 13, uh that I've seen it like a dozen times. It was like one of the first DVDs I ever owned. Um and it's like weird because like now I see it as a film that's kind of about like three normies who are waking up to the idea of not polyamory, but like I don't know, they've sort of formed a throuple at the end of the movie. And I remember when I was 13, I remember thinking that was cowardice on the part of the filmmakers for not being able to choose which guy Kate Blanchett was going to wind up with, Billy Bob Thornton or Bruce Willis. But now I'm like, this is a perfectly acceptable conclusion. Where if it's stupid and it works, then it's not stupid. What else? I for once I've watched well in advance of the next episode of Movie Oubliette. I've watched the next film they're going to cover, which is a film that's been on my watch list for a decade, and I finally sat down and watched it because it's going to be their next episode. It's called The One I Love, and it's from 2014, and it's basically just a cast of two. It's Elizabeth Moss and Mark Duplass. I don't know which. Um, I don't know how to. I don't know where the stress is supposed to go in his last name, but it's one of those movies that like I watched the trailer and the trailer is so vague. I'm like, okay, they're hiding a first act twist because they're barely even confirming what the basic premise is. Um, and there is indeed a first act twist of a semi supernatural variety, which turns the film into sort of like an episode of the Twilight Zone, and it was fascinating. I have minor quibbles, but it's a very interesting thing that exists. And the thing that I like about it is that it changes genres. Like it's like three different genre films in one, which I thought was very cool. Um, I watched another movie. I guess technically it premiered in 2024, but I'm counting it towards 2025 because I us like us peons, us citizens, us regular people didn't get invited to the premiere. So the soonest we could watch it was 2025, and it's Queen of the Ring, which posters don't show up well on my screen, but that gives you an idea. Anyway, it is a biopic about this wrestler from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. And I thought the lead actor looked familiar. And it turns out she has a minor role in the movie Brooklyn from 2015, which is one of my favorite films from 2015. Uh, and so once I saw that she was in that, I was like, oh, she was that character who was in a couple of scenes. Anyway, she got ripped for this movie. Which is probably 65% of why I knew I was going to watch it. But anyway, I wasn't crazy about it. It, like, I felt like I wasn't getting the straight story from the movie, and so, I was, like, pulling up the wiki page after my viewing, let's be honest, during my viewing, and the wiki page was more interesting to me than the movie. And then I find out that, like, it was supposed to be a mini series, but then they could only get enough money to make a feature length film, and so they had to cut it down and like take out all these subplots and parts of her life story. And it just felt like sort of like a missed opportunity in the end. Um, anyway, I watched this French film that like every Tuesday I go onto Amazon and I'm like, what came out this week? Um, and I just found this random trailer for this movie called When Fall Is Coming. And it looked interesting from the trailer. It was like it's this grandma who has a contentious relationship with her daughter, but adores her grandson. And she makes this mushroom dinner and accidentally poisons her daughter. Her daughter survives, but she's like, I'm going no contact. You're never gonna cook for my son again. Um, and it takes a bad relationship and strains it even further to the breaking point. And um, it's not that simple. More stuff happens. But anyway, I think it thought it was a lot deeper than it actually was. It's one of those movies where it's like the whole film, it's like, "Ooh, there's a twist coming." Um, and it does that for so long, you have time to get ahead of the movie, and, like, you kinda and you're like, "Well, it seems like it's heading here," and then it does, um, and then you're just left with this feeling of, like, uh, what am I trying to articulate? You're just left with this feeling of, like, it was a lot it had a lot of hullabaloo that it didn't need. I don't know. Anyway, it's a film that almost nobody's heard of in the States anyway, and I'm telling you, I didn't enjoy it. So and I usually feel bad about doing that. Um, because somebody's gonna love it. Like, when I give a film 2 stars, that doesn't mean it's a terrible film. That just means it didn't work for me for whatever reason. And there's, like and so I don't wanna tell people never to watch a given film. Um, but anyway, I also think priming is important, and I don't want people to waste a weeknight watching a film that they may not like. So I try to be specific in my descriptions of films so that people can accurately predict whether or not they think they might enjoy it. Anyway, I watched Seven, uh, which is actually that's another top contender for weirdest film for my parents to show me as a kid. I wasn't like a baby when I saw Seven. It was long after it came out. Well, not long after, but I was probably a teenager the first time I saw Seven, and, I think it's amazing. In fact, I think it's so good that it kind of spoiled the whole genre, um, with pale imitators and silly copycats who are just trying to cash in on its aesthetic, its vibe, and nobody's been able to match it because the Seven being about a serial killer who has chosen 7 victims based on the 7 deadly sins. It sounds like a gimmick, but it's not treated like a gimmick. It's treated like a central motivating force for the character's behaviors and beliefs and the themes of the film and the things it wants to say about society and people. Whereas, like, it feels like every pale imitator works the other way around, where they come up with just some gimmick, and then they try to just design a movie around it. Like, The Bone Collector comes to mind, which came out, I think, in, like, 99, 2000, so it was a little bit after Seven. Um, and you're watching it and you're like, "Okay, they're totally ripping off Seven, but doing it 1,000 times less successfully," because all they came up with was the gimmick of this serial killer who takes bones from his victims as like calling cards or something, and is like taunting a detective. Um, anyway, the point is just Seven is a masterpiece, and I rewatched it. I had in my head that I had rewatched it recently, like within the past year, but it turns out I checked my letterboxed logging history, which starts in 2022, and I hadn't logged it yet. So apparently I hadn't watched it in 3.5 years at least. Anyway, which I found fascinating. Where are we? I rewatched I, Robot, which is another film that like came out in a very formative time in my life. I think I was 16 when it came out, and I think it's very good in a very silly, fun, but like just smart enough to give you a little kernel of things to think about. Um, Not to spoil I, Robot for you all, but like the way that the three laws have failed to keep robots safe is not it's not even like the most interesting way for the three laws of robotics to fail, but you can tell they thought about it. And that's something, because the action scenes I think are fantastic, really well staged, really well shot. Stunt work I think is phenomenal. Um like every so much of modern action sequences is just like shit getting thrown at the screen. Um and like 99% of every shot is CGI. Whereas back in 2004, uh they they what's it called? They were putting as much real things into the frame as possible, and only using CGI for the impossible stuff, or to keep the actors safe. Whereas now there are no actors in action scenes. It's all just it's just like the action scenes are now functionally animated films. Um, and they lie about well, they don't lie about it, but what'll happen is they'll actors will get on talk shows and they'll talk about the dedicated stunt work that went into making the films, and they'll talk about all the practical stunts, all the stunts are practical, blah 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 blah. And what happens is there are stunt people performing these stunts, with great skill and at no small personal risk, uh, and then they're being replaced 100% in post production by CGI stuntmen. Um, And so you ask, why have anyone perform the stunt at all? They're literally being treated as like lighting references. Um, but so anyway, in 2004, that wasn't happening yet. You can actually spot the shots, the few shots where there are digital stunt people in the film. Um, but mostly, I was just having a day where I was just like furious at everyone being so smitten with AI. Um, and I don't know. iRobot was a cathartic watch for those purposes. It worked for me. Uh, I watched a horror film for Movie Oubliette. Their most recent episode is for a film that I've wanted to watch for a decade. It's called Let's Scare Jessica to Death. And I've wanted to watch it for a decade because of its title. I barely knew what the plot was. I knew the plot was like woman moves into new house and thinks she might be going crazy. That's all I knew, but I knew I wanted to watch it, and it was really good. Movie Oubliette, the gimmick of that podcast is that a lot of these films are forgotten for a reason. Um, but this one was really good, I thought. I watched a 2025 film called The Occupant, which this is another one that I was just like on Amazon on a Tuesday, and I was like, "What came out? Oh, this came out. What's this?" And I watched the trailer. It is not that I thought the trailer made it look good, but I could tell the trailer was playing information close to the chest. Um, like the trailer was making it clear that this film wouldn't be as simple as a woman's helicopter crashes in a snowy mountain range and she has to survive, that there is some sort of science fiction element, some sort of psychological horror element. And I was intrigued by that. And I watched it, and it's well shot and it's well acted and it's well staged and all those things you can say about a film with a script that did nothing for me. I thought the script was very self-important and nowhere near as deep as it thought it was. Not really deep at all, frankly. Um uh and it's like the filmmakers would probably say it's all a metaphor for grief, but it's a metaphor for grief, someone getting over their grief in a way that you can't get over your grief that way in real life. It only works in the very specific sci-fi horror metaphor that the film has constructed. So I think it's a I didn't think the metaphor worked. Anyway, another film that like you've probably never heard of it, and I'm telling you, you probably you wouldn't necessarily want to watch it, and so you come away with net zero information. It's like, well, I wasn't gonna watch it. You're telling me not to. Let's move on. Uh, and I'll just go back to the beginning of the month, which is just a few more films. I watched Black Bag, which is a 2025 film, Steven Soderbergh. It's a cute little spy whodunit. There, Michael Fassbender is the main character. He works for what MI5, um, the British spy agency, and they find out that someone is leaking information out of the agency. And the opening scene of the film is he gets like the names of the 5 agents who it could be based on who had access and opportunity and whatnot. And one of the names is his wife. That's the gimmick. That's the premise. That's the setup. And it's this really fun little crackerjack movie. It's not long. I think it's in and out in like 90 minutes. Um, and it's really fun. It's having a lot of fun with tropes, with spy movie tropes. Um, Not necessarily like upending them or changing them all that much, but it was just it's having fun with them. I don't know. It, and I was like 40 minutes into the movie and I was like, this is a real crackerjack script. Who wrote this thing? And I look it up and it's David Kep, who is he it's not like he's never written a bad film before, but his good films are really good. Um Jurassic Park comes to mind. Um Death Becomes Her. And just from that, like the dude has a very wide breadth. He has quite the range. And so he wrote this and I was like, "Oh, well, of course." Sonatira uh says humans have finite time to watch movies. Movie isn't great, counts as useful information. Thank you. Yes. That's what I'm hoping to convey. I do like taking chances on films, but there's nothing worse than when you push aside other things you want to get done or other things you need to get done in order to give a movie a chance, and then it just does nothing for you. I know it's nobody's fault. It's kind of a miracle when any film is good, but I don't know. I want this information shared. It's not like I log letterbox, and it's not like I tell everybody about my feelings about all these films that I watch because I think I swear it's not because I think my opinion is better than anybody else or even that I'm much better at articulating my opinion than anyone else. Um, but if there's a movie that I haven't heard anybody talk about, I want to share my opinion so that other people have a chance to either stay away from it or enjoy it as needed. Anyway, you get it. Then I watched another 2025 film. I tell you, I've been trying to catch up on 2025, called Dangerous Animals, which is a horror movie about this guy played by Jai Courtney who takes people out on his fishing boat for like shark tours, like shark cage tours. and then it's implied that he usually kills the man, kidnaps the woman, and then films her being eaten by sharks later that night. And this is his MO. It's just what he does because he's crazy or whatever, what have you. And the film follows his latest victim, who he kidnaps out of a parking lot. Um, and it's not like it was like the greatest or most subversive horror film ever made, but the things it decides to change are really interesting. And the thing that I liked about it, that I think makes it as notable as anything else, is that it doesn't demonize sharks. And I have been waiting for that for a long time. A shark based horror film where the sharks are not the bad guys. Because there are a lot of those. It's kind of weird. Um, uh, like the last shark film, this is my take. The last shark film where the shark was explicitly evil and demonized and the film was good was Jaws, which is to say it's the only film that's ever done it right. Um uh and then you fast forward to like a film like Deep Blue Sea, which came out in 99, which I have a soft spot for. I am a fan of Deep Blue Sea. I've actually considered making an episode of Schlock and Awe about it. But that film is about killer sharks, but they are sharks that have basically been victimized and are trying to escape from the facility that they have been imprisoned in. And so they are angry, they're vengeful, they're even spiteful, maybe, but they don't feel evil in that movie. And that's what I liked about it. And then like you'll see like that movie The Shallows came out a couple years back with Blake Lively, and she's basically stuck on a rock a couple 100 feet from shore uh, during low tide, I think. And there's this giant great white shark who's just has it in for her and it wants to eat her no matter what. And the gimmick is that the tide is going to come in. She's not going to be able to stand on top of this rock anymore. And then once the rock is submerged, it's going to eat her. And and everybody was talking about that movie like it was so good. And so I was finally like, all right, I'll watch it. Hope it doesn't demonize the shark. And it totally demonizes the shark. The shark has no reason to pursue her like this. But as far as most screenwriters are concerned, that's just what sharks do. Um, and I don't know why it's such a pet peeve of mine, but it is. When they just make sharks these mindless killing machines that just murder humans on sight. That's not what sharks do. That's not what sharks are, and it contributes to a lot of shark death, frankly. Um, and I'm not saying that the film kills sharks, but that attitude towards sharks is not helpful. And I don't know. I didn't think the film was super clever or like Jaws demonized sharks. Like somebody's gonna watch this live stream and be like, "You have a problem with movies demonizing sharks, but you don't have a problem with Jaws?" And like Jaws did something with its shark villain. Um, Notably, by the end of the film, it sort of feels like it's like the captain. I'm blanking on his name. Um, the fisherman, the grizzly fisherman dude, he's the real problem to solve by the end of the film. Um, with the shark being like a secondary antagonist at that point. Jaws is about um, competing in the interpretation that I like to talk about the most is that Jaws is not a film about killer sharks. It's a film about competing visions of masculinity and how they're equipped to handle problems. And the most gung ho dude of the trio at the end gets his ass chomped because that version of masculinity is not actually helpful or edifying. Anyway, that's what I think that's the interpretation that I think is most interesting and it has the most mileage, and it has very little to do with the behavior of sharks. Anyway, so does it, I guess what I'm getting at is like, does it really demonize the shark? Anyway, Sonatira says this feels like a metaphor for how the film industry feels about women. You mean with The Shallows? Um, it could be a metaphor. I mean, anything could be a metaphor. Especially when the sharks aren't behaving the way that sharks do in real life. I'm trying to build that metaphor in my head for that film, but frankly, I don't remember too much about it. Um, but anyway, all that is to say, Dangerous Animals surprised me because it didn't demonize the sharks. Like it explicitly, it makes explicit that the sharks are not the problem. It's the dude trying to kill people with sharks. Anyway. Okay. And then going back to, we're now at the beginning of the month. I watched the horror film Together, uh, which I had seen a couple trailers for it. It was on my radar. It's the movie where Allison Brie and Dave Franco are a married couple. No, not married. Not quite married. They've been dating forever, but they're not married yet. And they are moving to what is essentially like a little house in the woods upstate. And something happens where, and I'm not saying anything that isn't given away in the trailer, there something either supernatural or horror happens where their bodies begin to physically merge at certain points and in certain ways. Love the body horror stuff, but it tries to construct itself as like an explicit metaphor for marriage and falling in love and like a very literal interpretation of like the line two bodies will become one flesh when they get married. And the metaphor didn't do anything for me, but I did like all the body horror stuff. So it was definitely worth, I definitely thought it was worth a watch. It's one of those horror films that's having fun, which I tend to appreciate. Um, I just don't know if I'll ever revisit it. Anyway, so I've been watching a lot of movies, but that covers September. The rest of the month has been uh how do I put this? It's not that I'm still experiencing symptoms from that damn tick, which tomorrow will be the 3-month anniversary of my hospitalization. Um uh which is significant because I get driving privileges back after 90 days. Um but anyway, it's not that I'm still experiencing symptoms, but I get home after work and I don't want to open up Word documents and peck away at scripts. I just want to eat some decent food, get in a halfway decent workout, uh, and then try and watch something interesting. But then that's usually all the gas that I've had in the tank. Anyway, it's been harder to get back at the creative stuff at the level that I was at pre tick bite, which is a contributing factor, I believe, in why it's taking so long to finish this next video. Excuse me, the script for this next video. Uh, which the rough draft is done. I posted it to Patreon, I think last weekend. And I've spent just like a few moments here and there throughout the week, pulling up the document, reading a paragraph, tweaking how I say something. But the conclusion I hope to finish tomorrow because it's not ready yet. The conclusion is trying to answer the question of why why should this video exist? Why have I functionally made the equivalent of a BA thesis on such a weird little subject that most people have never even heard of? I think I say in the video, I'm like, oh, and for those who don't know, the video is on slurposaurs, which, what's a slurposaur? Because who the hell knows what a slurposaur is? A slurposaur is a special effects technique where you take an animal and you plop it down in front of the camera, and then it represents a a big giant monster, basically. And it is relevant to dinosaur cinema because there were several decades, the 40s, 50s, and 60s mostly, um, where they would do that for dinosaur films, or they would put an iguana on a scaled set, or a monitor lizard, or an alligator with a sail glued to its back in front of the camera. But the thing is, the technique was never super popular. It was never um, it was never dominating the whole genre. So it's kind of an obscure technique within the already obscure subject, not obscure, but esoteric subject of dinosaur films. It's an obscure subject within an esoteric subject, and I am making a BA thesis worth of um, uh, a presentation on it that is the same length and has the same level of research as a BA thesis. Why would I do that? um, it's I'm convinced it's not going to do numbers, because why would it? Um, but in working on the conclusion over the last couple of days, over the last week or two, it's it's dawned on me that this issue has had a lot of um, what I'm interested in nestled in it. In a lot of very personal ways. I've been the what's it called? One of the issues with the conclusion is figuring out how much is too much to share. What do I mean by that? It's about animals who are essentially being abused in the worst circumstances uh, for our viewing pleasure. And I lost two pets in the last year. Uh, I lost a tarantula in the move, and I lost my dog in January, and I had to start a new job 13 days after she died. It was just so fast, and I don't know how long one is supposed to take to process one's grief about this, but examining this subject has been a kind of way for me to approach the grief of losing two pets. So there's that involved. There's also AI has come up. I despise generative AI. I hate it's not like AI has no use cases. Like, I like the applications for health where it's used to like pre-screen for cancer and things like that. It's a fascinating technology that is just instantly ruined right out of the gate by the tech bros and capitalism, who are, anyway, the reason it comes up in this video is because uh the online resources, if you can call them that, for the history of slurposaurs is nigh worthless. I had to go to physical books. Anytime I try to confirm even the most basic facts about the history and use of slurposaurs. Google is barely a search engine anymore. What it wants to do, it doesn't want to supply you with um, a route to the answer. It wants to supply you with the answer, and it's not interested in giving you the correct answer. It just wants to give you the fastest answer. And that's what all the search engines are doing. And used to be you could add the word fucking to your Google search and then it wouldn't give you any AI results. Like instead of Googling where did the word slurposaur come from? You would literally Google where did the fucking word slurposaur come from? And then it wouldn't give you any AI summary. But now that doesn't work anymore. Um, and so anyway, it became a in researching this video, I wound up like special ordering books for that the library would track down for me that I could then check out and read stuff that's been out of print for like 40 years, but it's accurate because it was written by the people who worked with slurposaurs and filmed slurposaurs um, in a way that none of the online resources get right. So AI was tied up into this. I've been thinking a lot about the implications of AI, and I got to think about that more um, while writing this video. So what we've got like processing the trauma of losing a pet. We've got AI. We've got learning not necessarily how people contribute to specific harms and abuses, but how the system fosters it. Because you read about the special effects technicians often in their own words, because they were the only ones writing, they were the only ones documenting how they produced these effects. I don't get the impression that they hated animals or that they didn't care for animals. My impression is that the director gave them a budget and a deadline and told them get the footage for me. And so they would come up with ways to induce animals to behave certain ways that worked for the shot, but it would put the animal in distress. Like some people literally fired guns next to their heads to startle them and move off into a certain direction. And that's not good. That's not something that you should do to an animal, in my opinion. Um, but the point is, it's got me. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot in the past year, especially, but like the last 5 years in general, how systems contribute to abuse uh, more so than the minds and behaviors of specific individuals. So anyway, and I want to say this in the video, even though like the audience doesn't have to know why I'm making it, why I think it should exist. Um, but I'll put it in. I want to put it in there somewhere. Um, it might literally be just voiceover as like credits roll of like the Patreon producers or something. But I want to put it in there somewhere. I want to talk about the kind of year it's been, not just for me, but for like the whole planet and for this company store masquerading as a country. Um, and how we're all bogged down in it. And this video just became kind of a way when I didn't have a ton of energy to like I'm like this is something that I wonder if this should go into a public video, but it's like right now I don't know if you can tell, but I am between therapists. and and I haven't had the energy to do screenwriting on top of everything else that I'm working on. So working on this script became an outlet for a lot of different thoughts all of a sudden, even though it's essentially a video about the history of splicing animal footage in with people to pretend like there are dinosaurs on screen. But it became what felt like a very compelling way for me to examine my thoughts and feelings about all sorts of these different intersecting subjects. But how do you sum that up in 2 minutes? Because I don't want it to take more than 2 minutes of the video. Because I don't think it's essential. Or what am I trying to say? I don't think it's something that's worth. The subject of the video should not be why the video was made. Um, but I do want to articulate that at some point. And so the struggle for the past week and the struggle for this weekend is going to be finalizing that conclusion and figuring out how to communicate all that in 3 paragraphs. Um, Sonatira says, "How have I not heard of that hack?" You're probably referring to adding the word fucking? Yeah, because it only worked for, like, a minute. Like, in between me reading about it and realizing it didn't work anymore was, like, a month. So, they're unfortunately, they are iterating the AIs quickly, just not in any way that's useful. Not in a way that gets you better information or more accurate information or even information that's been fact checked on any level. Um, I don't know. They're just focusing on like how every development in AI so far has been how to make more money off of it. And they will break a service, they will break a product if they think that will get them more money than fixing it or improving it. I'm very excited for so I am a patron of H Bomber Guy. Uh And so I get to find out what videos he's working on, sometimes years in advance of their public release. And he released like the first 40 minutes of his next video on his Patreon page that I've already watched. And it's about Adobe and the history of Adobe not creating products, but buying other people's products and then essentially holding them hostage from the consumer, which there should be videos about that on YouTube because he talks a lot about how many YouTubers are sponsored by Adobe, people who started out as editing channels, like how to edit video channels, how to make movie channels that are essentially just paid shills for Adobe now. Um, anyway, and it's a fascinating subject and it's an important subject. Also, every week there's a new reason to hate YouTube as well. Um, and like the latest thing is like they're attempting to do like they're using some sort of AI to futz with people's videos. I've heard that they only do it on shorts, and I don't think I've uploaded any shorts. I think, like I say, I don't think. I think I might have tried it once and didn't like the interface and never did it again. So at most, I've uploaded one. But anyway, the story was that YouTube was like smoothing out wrinkles, um, changing the image within shorts in way using an AI in ways that they thought would make them, I don't know, more viewable or I don't know why they do whatever they do, and that there's no way to opt out. They're not informing creators. And I was like, if I found out that they were doing that to my videos, that would just be a reason to leave the platform. Like, what's the point of uploading a video if YouTube can then go in afterwards and literally change the content of the video? Um, it would just instantly jump platforms over that. Um, it's bad enough that they cut them up with ads. Even I I've monetized like 5 videos out of like 100 that I've uploaded since I started my channel. Like 5 or 6 are monetized, and yet ads play across I think every single one, which is a joke. That's just wild to me. And I don't know. It's reason number 587 to hate YouTube. Uh, and then the other last straw, because there's a lot of them, is that there are rumors that they're going to start doing the UK thing, which is forcing users to upload government IDs to prove that they're over 18. And all of these things, it's not to keep anybody safer. It's not to actually do meaningful content moderation. It's just to make money. It's just so that they can tell their advertisers, yes, we are ad friendly, um, so that they can hike the price of advertising. Um, that's all it is. It's just a race to figure out who can break their product more to make more money, and it's driving me a little bit crazier every single day. Um, I thought about So I mean, so long as YouTube is still technically functional, I'll keep uploading my videos there. But for the last several videos, I've been prepared to upload my preferred version straight to Patreon, not paywalled. Just Patreon is would just happen to be the website that hosts the content. I also hate the word content. Y- Patreon would be the default website to host my video, uh, and then I would just over the course of the next week, just when I get around to it, cutting that video up so that YouTube doesn't block it, and then getting it on YouTube kind of for posterity at some point. But that Patreon would be the primary platform to host my videos. We'll see what happens. Um, I just wish websites were better. And in fact, this is informing what my next video is going to be. It's probably going to be a video that um, I've had a Word document open for 4 years that says, "Why aren't movies sexy anymore?" And I want to finally commit to it so I can force myself to finally write it because it's an incredibly intimidating subject for me. It requires a lot of knowledge of film history. It requires a lot of knowledge of politics, because fascism is going to come up, of course, uh, because fascists hate anything that doesn't toe the party line, especially in art and the erotic, um, the pornographic, and certainly anything that is even slightly out of line with like the heteronormative version of, they just start foaming at the mouth. Um, and so like what I'm trying to say is that the rise of fascism coincides with the crackdown on eroticism, and um, and while it's easy to recognize that as a general principle, uh, I want to read a lot about it so that I feel like I have enough to say about it, in the video. Um, Sonatira says, need a solid definition of sexy too. You are absolutely correct. And in fact, hang on, this is worth. I'm going into my my hard drive here to pull up uh the script that I have so far, because there's literally a section right at the beginning of the video called, well, I'm trying to pull it up so that I can quote it. Uh what makes something sexy in the first place? um and in that section, I quote both Dita Von Teese and uh what's his name? Um the Supreme Court justice who weighed in on the definition of pornography. Potter Stewart. Uh, I'm looking at my script now, and it says in 1964, when Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart was asked to define hardcore pornography, which isn't the same thing as sexy, but it's the closest that the federal judiciary has ever come to defining it, he famously concluded, I shall not today attempt further to define the kinds of material I understand to be embraced within that shorthand description, and perhaps I could never succeed in intelligibly doing so. But I know it when I see it. um so anyway, I what I'm saying is it's part 2 of the video of what do we even mean when we say sexy. um so I quote Dita Von Teese, who's weighed in on it. I quote a Supreme Court justice who's weighed on it. I also talk about like the difference between sexy and horny, which I think are two very different, distinct things that are worth articulating. Um, and anyway, it's very rewarding to see that as something you want to know, knowing that it is gonna be a whole section of my video. That's exciting. It's also very fun to write. Um, it's for as much as fascism is gonna come up in it, uh, it's it's a very it's been very fun to outline. It's been very fun to come up with topics to discuss. Uh, uh, like I'm glancing through it, and I'm seeing all the quotes that I'm going to be pulling from different films. I have everything from like Waitress, when Cheryl Hines says, I love having someone to look pretty for. I love having something to look forward to, something fun and sneaky and sexy." And then right after that, I have a quote from The Big Lebowski, which is, "The brain is the biggest erogenous zone." So we're gonna have fun with this one. um, I've been pecking away at the script for about 4 years. Never committed to making this my next video, and it's already at 6 pages. And fascism has not come up yet. Um, so anyway, it's going to be a big video, which is another reason I've been putting it off, because I've been intimidated by it. But it feels very exciting to talk about right now, which is a good sign. Max M says, "I'm really excited to see Surge. I just think he's neat, but Narchuk talk about sexiness." Whenever I reblog something on Tumblr because they're pretty, I tag it, "I just think she's neat," or "I just think he's neat." That is the shorthand. There's also I might as well say this, there's also some shame involved. I grew up conservative Christian with conservative Christian parents, and it's not and that shit sticks with you. The shame of sexual pleasure, the shame of, uh, erotic interest, that's I'm not gonna pretend like that has no effect on pushing this into production. And I'm trying to figure out ways to embrace it in, I don't know, in ways that aren't too cringe, ways that aren't too corny, but ways that are sincere and honest and healthy, and encourage other people to do the same thing. And before anybody says it, I also have a section very early in the video. I talk about asexuality and why that's important in a discussion about sexiness. Um, so anyway, I'm really excited about this video. Uh, it could become a massive thing where I my instinct is to like reach out and like find collaborators. But that oh, but that would that takes then it's becoming such a big project that it's just like writing another BA thesis, and I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. um, but anyway, we'll see. I always tell myself that, "Oh, well, I'll just work on 2 videos at the same time, a really big project and then a smaller project that I can release while the big one's being developed." And that never works, because inevitably the little quick project becomes its own big giant thing. Um, but so anyway, I say this as we approach 1 hour and my throat's been gone for like 30 minutes. I appreciate, those of you who listen live. Uh, and I appreciate anybody who is uh, listening to this video while doing chores in the future. You should probably move your clothes over from the washer to the dryer right now, just so you know. Don't forget them in there. And but sincerely, it's very helpful for me to talk about ideas for stuff that's in production, and getting feedback in real time, from people talking about what I'm saying. Anyway, I really appreciate your attention. I don't take it for granted. Uh, Thank you for listening. Thank you for responding. Thank you for watching. And I hope you all have fantastic weekends. And I should not forget to do this next month. This felt right. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. I miss it when it doesn't happen. Anyway, uh, y'all are making me go all mushy. Uh, so thanks again. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.